Welcome to Roll Credits. This podcast was created with help from AI tools, so double-check your facts. Today, we're swaying through the entire Spider-Man trilogy starring Tom Holland, from a teenager trying to prove himself to a hero who learns that with great power comes great sacrifice. This is the complete story of Spider-Man: Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home.
Yeah, and, usually when we talk about a superhero putting on a mask, the immediate assumption is concealment, right?
Like, you could put a mask on to hide your true face.
Exactly. To become someone completely different or just to escape the consequences of what you're doing, it's a hiding place.
Yeah, but then you look at the trajectory of a character like Peter Parker, specifically the Tom Holland iteration, over the course of these three massive films, and that entire concept is just completely inverted.
It really is. We're looking at a narrative where putting on the mask is like the only way the character can actually figure out who his true self is.
I mean, it functions less as a disguise and way more as an amplifier.
Oh, totally. Over the course of Homecoming and then Far From Home and finally No Way Home, the mask kind of strips away his civilian anxieties. It forces him to confront his actual core values.
Which is super tragic, right? Because the more comfortable he gets in the mask, the more his unmasked life is systematically destroyed.
Yeah, it's basically a complete 3-act origin story that's disguised as a trilogy.
So let's dive deep into this. Because to truly understand the ultimate, universe-altering sacrifice Peter makes at the end of his journey, we have to start at the total opposite end of the spectrum.
Right, his desperation to just simply get in the ring.
Exactly. The first chapter, Homecoming, is essentially Peter's wrestling days. He's testing his limits, figuring out his identity, and he just desperately wants to skip the line to the big leagues.
And I love how the movie establishes this, not with some sweeping cinematic shot, but with a shaky vlog.
A film by Peter Parker.
Yes. We see the God-level events of Captain America, Civil War through the vertical smartphone lens of a teenager, which is just brilliant.
It fundamentally reorients the audience's perspective. Think about how previous superhero films operated. You usually get the grand objective, omniscient camera angle showing the battle, right?
Right, the Titan's eye view.
Yeah. But by dropping us into a literal smartphone video, director John Watts tells us immediately this is not about the Titans. This is about the kid watching the Titans.
It anchors Peter in a deeply modern Gen Z reality. I mean, he's right there, stealing Captain America's shield, living the absolute dream, and then the battle ends.
And Tony Stark dumps him back in Queens.
It's the ultimate whiplash for a kid.
It's like getting a summer internship at Google where you help launch a major global product, Like you are literally in the boardroom with the CEO.
Yeah, you're on top of the world.
And then in September, you're back in homeroom raising your hand to ask if you can go to the bathroom.
That it's a perfect analogy. The juxtaposition is hilarious, but the psychological toll of that on a teenager has to be immense.
And Tom Holland embodies that manic teenage energy so perfectly. I mean, he was only 19 when he was cast.
Right, which makes a huge difference. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were in their mid-20s when they took the role.
Yeah, Holland brought actual, genuine adolescent awkwardness.
The studio recognized that authenticity was their greatest asset, too. To ensure Holland understood the specific rhythm of a modern American high school, which, by the way, is vastly different from the private all-boys school he attended in London.
Oh, yeah. Completely different worlds.
Right, so Marvel actually sent him undercover.
Wait, really? Like 21 Jump Street style?
Exactly like that.
Oh, yeah.
He enrolled at the Bronx High School of Science under the alias Ben Perkins.
Ben Perkins. That is amazing.
He adopted a fake American accent and shadowed a real senior named Arun Bishop through this brutal schedule of advanced classes. We're talking AP Calculus.
Which he was completely unqualified for, I assume.
Oh, completely. Wow. He admitted he is not a science student, so he's sitting in experimental engineering, completely lost, trying to maintain this cover identity.
That sounds so stressful. But honestly, I bet the most revealing part of that undercover operation wasn't even the academics. It was probably just the physical environment.
You're spot on. Holland noted that his biggest takeaway was the pervasive, bone-deep exhaustion of the student body.
Oh, for sure. Magnet school kids in New York are commuting an hour each way, taking college-level courses, balancing extracurriculars.
They are perpetually drained. And he translated that exact physical lethargy into Peter Parker. Notice how Peter walks down the hallways in Homecoming?
Yeah, his shoulders are slumped. His backpack looks like it weighs 80 pounds.
Exactly. He's constantly resting his head on desks. That exhaustion grounds the character. It makes the high school scenes feel lived in.
And there's a brilliant layer of irony to this undercover stunt, too. Holland actually got so bored keeping his secret that he turned to a fellow student and confessed.
Oh, I heard about this. He told them he was Spider-Man.
Yeah, he said, "I'm secretly Spider-Man." And the student just looked at him, scoffed, and completely refused to believe him.
That is incredible.
It is a perfect, real-world mirror of Peter's struggle. The world simply does not look at an exhausted, awkward teenager and see a superhero.
It really doesn't. And that grounded teenage reality is just slathered in this heavy 1980s John Hughes coming-of-age aesthetic.
John Watts actually assigned classic teen movies as homework for the cast, right?
He did. But I have to ask you, why John Hughes? I mean, putting a superhero in a Breakfast Club scenario feels like it could easily minimize the stakes of a multi-billion-dollar cinematic universe.
Well, I think it minimizes the global stakes to maximize the personal stakes. In a John Hughes film, a ruined date or a detention feels like the end of the world because, to a teenager, it is.
Right, the emotional frequency of adolescence is dialed up to an 11.
Exactly. So when Peter's running through the suburbs during that neighborhood chase sequence, jumping over fences and destroying a family's backyard barbecue, the tension isn't about saving the city from a laser beam.
No, the tension is about the sheer mortification of messing up his neighborhood.
They even make that homage literal. During that chase, one of the backyard TVs is playing the exact same fence-jumping sequence from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, I love that detail. And the production design team layered this environment with such subtle historical texture, too.
Like the Midtown High apparel.
Yeah, the gym shirts, the decathlon blazers, they all read established 1962.
Ah, 1962.
Yeah.
The publication year of Amazing Fantasy number 15, Spider-Man's comic book debut.
Exactly. And they weave the MCU history in just as seamlessly. Look at Principal Morita, played by Kenneth Choi.
Right, what's his connection?
In his office, there is a framed black and white photograph of a World War II soldier. That is Jim Morita, a member of Captain America's Howling Commandos.
Oh, wow. And Kenneth Choi actually played Jim Morita in Captain America, the First Avenger.
He did. Establishing the principal as the grandson of a historical MCU figure makes the universe feel dense and interconnected, and they don't even need a line of exposition to do it.
Which brings us to the biggest interconnected element of the film, which is obviously Tony Stark. Peter is entirely reliant on this massively overpowered tech suit Stark gave him. It has like hundreds of web shooter combinations, a drone, and an AI he names Karen.
But you look at that suit and you see a massive crutch, don't you?
I really do. He isn't learning how to be a hero. He's basically just learning how to operate Tony Stark's software.
That is the intentional flaw in their mentor-mentee dynamic. The tech suit is a physical manifestation of Peter's lack of self-trust.
Yeah, he believes the suit makes him worthy.
And the voice of that AI, Karen, is such a brilliant piece of metacasting. She is voiced by Jennifer Connelly.
Wait, who is married in real life to Paul Bettany?
Yes. And Bettany, of course, voiced Tony Stark's original AI, Jarvis, before evolving into Vision.
So it implies that Stark builds his user interfaces with a certain familial audio aesthetic.
Yeah.
That's a great little Easter egg.
It is. But you know, the glamorous high-tech fantasy of the suit on screen is hilarious when you contrast it with the physical reality of filming.
Oh, the suit was a nightmare for Tom, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because the costume had to be flawlessly skin-tight to look correct on camera, Tom Holland couldn't wear normal underwear.
Oh, no.
He had to wear a thong under the suit every single day.
The indignity of having to do intense acrobatics while dealing with that, it's just wild to think about. The physical toll must have been severe.
It was. Do you remember that famous promotional poster of Spider-Man asleep, wearing his yellow decathlon blazer over the suit, listening to headphones?
Yeah, the one that was praised as a brilliant, evocative piece of marketing capturing the teenage superhero vibe.
Yes, well, it wasn't a posed marketing shot.
Wait, really?
A set photographer captured a candid image of Holland literally passed out on the floor between takes.
Are you serious? He was just actually asleep.
Genuinely that exhausted. The suit was restrictive, the schedule was punishing.
Wow. But, you know, that vulnerability makes him the perfect foil for the film's antagonist, Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton.
Absolutely. Toomes represents the socioeconomic fallout of the Avengers' actions.
Right. In the prologue, Toomes and his working-class salvage crew invest everything into a contract to clean up New York after the alien invasion.
But the Department of Damage Control, which is a joint venture between the federal government and Tony Stark, usurps the contract.
So Toomes is financially decimated by the exact same billionaire that Peter Parker views as a savior.
But is Toomes actually a compelling villain to you, or just another guy with a grudge and a jetpack? Because, we've seen the scorned worker trope a million times.
I think he elevates the trope because his grievance is entirely systemic and structurally valid. He doesn't want world domination.
No, not at all.
He looks at the elite people like Stark who create the messes and then profit off the cleanup, and he realizes the game is rigged, so he adapts.
He literally becomes a vulture, scavenging the scraps of Chitauri weaponry and Ultron drones left behind by the gods, repurposing them to feed his family.
And he operates entirely in the blind spots of the Avengers, which makes him so dangerous.
That ideological clash really peaks at the Staten Island ferry. Peter discovers Toomes is brokering a weapons deal with McGargan,
Who comic fans will spot instantly thanks to the massive scorpion tattoo on his neck.
Exactly. So Peter swoops in to stop it, completely ignoring the fact that he's totally out of his depth. The alien tech malfunctions, and the Vulture's weapon cleanly slices the massive ferry in two.
Visually, it is a staggering sequence, though it's funny to note that director John Watts acknowledged a glaring real-world inaccuracy there.
Oh, about the cars on the ferry?
Yeah. Post 9/11, security measures strictly prohibit passenger cars on the Staten Island ferry. But, the MCU apparently operates on a slightly different timeline of municipal regulations.
I guess so, but narratively, the physics of the scene dictate Peter's failure. He tries to web the ship together, but he simply lacks the physical strength and tactical experience.
He is literally being pulled apart trying to hold his mistakes together, and Tony Stark has to fly in, deploy propulsion thrusters, and fix it.
And then Stark strips Peter of the suit, delivering that killing blow. If you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Ouch. So Peter is forced back into his baggy homemade costume, which, by the way, is a fantastic visual nod to Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider with the blue hoodie.
It really is, and that sets up the single most agonizing scene in the film, the car ride to the homecoming dance.
Oh my gosh, the mechanics of tension in this scene are flawless. Peter arrives to pick up his date, Liz, and the door opens to reveal Adrian Toomes.
He is Liz's father.
What follows is this slow, methodical interrogation disguised as small talk while Toomes drives them to the school. The audience knows the secret, Toomes does not, and Peter's just trapped in the backseat.
The lighting design in that sequence is what makes it a masterpiece.
Yes. As Toomes asks probing questions, noting Peter's flimsy excuses and unexplained absences, you can see his brain processing the data.
And the exact second the math clicks in Toomes' head, the moment he realizes the terrified kid in his rearview mirror is Spider-Man, the car stops at an intersection.
And the traffic light shifts to green.
It bathes Toomes' face in the sickly, villainous glow. The father vanishes, and the Vulture emerges.
Not a single punch is thrown, but the shift in power is absolutely terrifying.
It really forces Peter to rely solely on his own grit. In the climax, wearing pajamas and goggles, Peter finally defeats Toomes.
But the crucial character moment is that when Toomes' unstable wingsuit is about to explode, Peter doesn't let him die. He saves the man who just tried to murder him.
And this act of grace proves to Stark that Peter is worthy. So Stark offers him a permanent spot on the Avengers, unveiling the advanced Iron Spider armor and a room full of press waiting for a reveal.
And Peter walks away. He rejects the armor and the fame, choosing to stay on the ground.
A huge moment of growth for him.
Definitely. But the tragedy of this trilogy is that Peter's choices rarely matter to the universe at large. By the time we reach the second chapter, Spider-Man, far from home, Peter has chosen the neighborhood. But the neighborhood has been irrevocably altered.
Because Avengers Endgame happened.
Exactly. Half of all life was erased and resurrected. And Tony Stark sacrificed himself to save everyone. Now Peter can't walk down the street without seeing a mural of Tony's face. The media is shoving microphones in his face, asking if he is the next Iron Man.
He is a teenager suffering from acute PTSD and the crushing weight of a messianic legacy. Grief is the driving engine of Far From Home.
Yeah, Peter is desperate to just hit pause. He wants to go on a European science trip, hang out with Ned, and confess his feelings to MJ.
He is actively running from his responsibilities because the emotional toll is just too high.
You can see how heavy that baggage is before he even leaves Queens. When he packs for the trip, his suitcase is stamped with the initials BFP.
Benjamin Franklin Parker, Uncle Ben.
The MCU rarely speaks Uncle Ben's name aloud, but his ghost haunts this franchise. In comic lore, Uncle Ben took Peter to Mets games, and they shared a deep bond over everyday things.
So Peter taking Ben's battered suitcase to Europe is a physical manifestation of carrying his past trauma with him.
Exactly. And the film's geography is peppered with these historical comic anchors.
Right, like when the students arrive in Venice, their accommodations are at the Hotel de Matisse.
A direct homage to J.M. DeMatteis, the legendary writer who penned some of the most psychologically complex Spider-Man stories in the 1980s.
And when Nick Fury inevitably hijacks Peter's vacation, Fury's license plate reads MTU 83779.
Which corresponds to Marvel Team-Up number 83 from July 1979, an issue specifically pairing Spider-Man and Nick Fury.
I appreciate the deep-cut trivia, but we have to talk about the massive psychological misstep Peter takes in this movie.
Oh, you mean entering Quentin Beck, a.k.a. Mysterio, played by Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah. He shows up fighting giant elemental monsters, claiming to be from the multiverse. He is validating, supportive, and treats Peter like an equal.
Oh, wait, hold on. We just spent an entire movie watching Peter learn to trust his own instincts and reject Tony Stark's high-tech handouts in Homecoming.
True.
Why on earth would he suddenly hand EDITH, which is basically a pair of glasses controlling Stark's global drone defense network, to a guy he met 3 days ago? That feels like a massive character regression to me.
Well, it looks like regression if you view it purely through a tactical lens. But through a psychological lens, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
Peter is drowning in a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does grief. Stark left Peter with a weapon of mass destruction and the implicit expectation to police the globe.
Right. And Peter knows he's not emotionally equipped for that.
Exactly. So when Beck arrives, he operates like a classic narcissist seeking out a vulnerable target. Beck doesn't ask for the power. He acts like a reluctant soldier, which makes Peter project all of Tony's idealized qualities onto him.
Oh, I see. Peter hands over EDITH, not because he trusts Beck, but because he desperately wants permission to be a kid again.
Yes, he wants someone else to hold the wheel. And the chemistry between Holland and Gyllenhaal really sells that desperation.
Off camera, Gyllenhaal actually became a genuine anchor for Holland, too.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, there was a pivotal early scene involving Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. Holland was super intimidated by Jackson's presence and the sheer scale of the production, and he completely froze up.
Oh, no, like forgot his lines.
Totally forgot his lines. He panicked, pulled Gyllenhaal aside, and said he was just freaking out. Gyllenhaal, being a veteran actor, had to physically calm him down, normalizing the overwhelming pressure of the MCU machine.
That's really sweet. And it's funny because Gyllenhaal fully immersed himself in the theatricality of Mysterio.
Yeah, Beck's costume features this massive, ridiculous fishbowl helmet.
Gyllenhaal loved it so much that he petitioned producer Eric Carroll to let him wear the fishbowl during simple expositional briefing scenes where Beck could have just been in civilian clothes.
Really, just hanging out in the fishbowl.
Yeah. He understood that Beck uses theatricality to establish dominance and presence.
The filmmakers also subtly established Beck's manipulative nature long before the big reveal, too.
Oh, right. If you watch the background of the Venice sequence closely, before Beck even makes his superhero debut, you can spot Jake Gyllenhaal in plainclothes blending into the panicked crowd.
He was already on the ground, scouting the location and orchestrating the water elemental's attack.
Exactly. And the elementals themselves were clever sleights of hand. They were visually modeled on classic Spider-Man rogues, Hydra Man, Molten Man, and Sandman.
Distracting the audience from the fact that it was all drone-projected holographic smoke and mirrors.
But when Peter finally realizes the deception, Beck punishes him with arguably the most terrifying sequence in the MCU, the illusion battle.
Beck traps Peter in an unfinished building and just unleashes his projectors at full capacity.
The illusion sequence transcends standard superhero action because it is a targeted assault on Peter's specific psyche.
Right, Beck weaponizes Peter's imposter syndrome by projecting shattered, failing reflections of Spider-Man.
He weaponizes his love by showing MJ falling to her death.
And most brutally, he weaponizes Peter's survivor's guilt, manifesting a skeletal, rotting zombie Iron Man clawing out of a grave to consume him.
It's pure nightmare fuel. But I have to wonder, how do you make a CGI sequence like that not feel like a floaty video game? Whenever you have a digital character fighting digital monsters in a digital void, you usually lose all emotional grounding.
Well, the visual effects studio, Framestore, anchored the sequence in two very specific ways. First, John Watts insisted that Mysterio had to be visually driving the nightmare. It couldn't just be random horror.
So they unified the chaos with a persistent green smoke element, mapping the illusions to Beck's physical movements?
Exactly. They actually deleted several concepts, like Peter fighting on a massive chessboard or Mysterio's cape turning into a beast, because they were just too abstract and detached from Peter's trauma.
And what was the second anchor?
The motion capture. Normally, animators use keyframing for digital characters, adjusting a 3D skeleton point by point. This creates smooth, perfect movements, but it strips away human imperfection.
Right, it looks a little too clean.
Yeah. So for the illusion sequence, they strapped Tom Holland into a mocap suit and had him physically react to the terror.
Oh, wow. So the digital Spider-Man inherits Holland's actual micro movements.
Exactly. The slight hesitation in his shoulders, the frantic, panic breathing, the clumsy stumbles. Holland's stunt double was on set doing double backflips off trampolines, but for the visceral panic, the digital model was driven entirely by Holland's human fear.
That is brilliant. And that fear culminates in London, where Peter destroys the drones, relying solely on his Peter Tingle, his spider sense operating with his eyes closed.
He defeats Beck. But Beck's contingency plan is basically a nuclear bomb to Peter's life.
Beck's crew releases a doctored video to the Daily Bugle, framing Peter for the destruction and revealing his identity to the world.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker.
Which completely shatters the foundational premise of the character. For the first time in his cinematic history, the delicate firewall between the teenager and the superhero is gone.
His dual life collapses into a single exposed nerve. And his frantic, immature attempt to rebuild that firewall is what breaks the fabric of reality in the final chapter, Spider-Man: No Way Home.
The fallout is immediate. Peter, MJ, and Ned are rejected from MIT because the university doesn't want the media circus of a vigilante on campus.
So Peter's guilt over ruining his friends' lives drives him to the sanctum sanctorum. He asks Dr. Strange to cast a spell, making the world forget his identity.
But Peter, being an impulsive kid, keeps interrupting the incantation to add exemptions for MJ, Ned, and Aunt May.
Which completely destabilizes the magic and rips open the multiverse. But frankly, I blame Dr. Strange.
You do?
Yeah. Why would the Sorcerer Supreme agree to cast a reality-altering brainwashing spell just to solve a teenager's college admissions problem? It seems remarkably reckless.
Well, it is reckless, but I think it's rooted in deep, unspoken guilt. You have to look back at the climax of Avengers: Infinity War.
Okay, walk me through that.
Strange is the architect of the 1 in 14 million victory. He foresaw the only path to defeating Thanos, and that specific path required Tony Stark to die. Strange knowingly orchestrated the death of Peter's surrogate father. He watched Peter break down over Tony's body. Strange carries a profound sense of responsibility for the trauma Peter has endured.
Ah, so he agrees to the spell because he is trying to alleviate a fraction of the pain he caused this kid.
Exactly. That reframes Strange's arrogance as tragic empathy.
That's a really great point. But unfortunately, the botched spell pulls in everyone from across the multiverse who knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
And we get absolute cinematic royalty. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, Jamie Foxx's Electro.
And the technological evolution between their original films and No Way Home really changed how they approached the roles, didn't it?
Oh, massively. Take Dafoe, for instance. At 66 years old, he demanded to perform his own punishing physical stunts. In 2002, his goblin armor required agonizing 8-hour practical fittings.
8 hours, that's torturous.
Right. But this time, modern tech allowed for a rapid 3D body scan to digitally build the suit over his practical stunt work.
That's amazing. And Molina experienced a similar liberation with Doc Ock.
Yeah, in the original Spider-Man 2, his mechanical tentacles were these heavy, massive, practical puppets.
Whenever Doc Ock moved, Molina was surrounded by a team of puppeteers coordinating the claws. It restricted his mobility and the camera's framing.
But for No Way Home, the tentacles were entirely CGI. This allowed Molina complete freedom of movement on set, bringing a more dynamic physical performance while the VFX teams layered in the menacing weight of the metal later.
The film does an incredible job of balancing these massive multiversal sci-fi concepts with the mundane legal reality of Peter's situation, too.
Oh, speaking of which, there is a brilliant deleted scene showing Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock Daredevil sitting in a conference room with Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan.
Really? What was it about?
It explored the massive legal and corporate fallout for Stark Industries following Peter's unmasking, proving that the ripples of Peter's actions affect the entire socioeconomic structure of his world.
I wish they had kept that in. But all of that kind of fades away when we reach the absolute lowest point of Peter's life.
Right. Driven by Aunt May's moral compass, Peter refuses to send the villains back to their dimensions to die. He believes he can cure them.
So he brings them to Happy's condo to develop the antidotes. But Norman Osborn's psyche fractures, and the goblin persona takes control.
A visceral, brutal, claustrophobic fight breaks out. culminating in the Goblin striking down Aunt May with his glider.
It is so devastating. And before she dies, May finally delivers the thematic core of the entire mythos. With great power, there must also come great responsibility.
But her death completely breaks him. He abandons that responsibility.
He isolates himself on a rooftop, consumed by a cold, quiet rage, fully intending to hunt the goblin down and murder him.
He is standing on the precipice of losing his soul. But in his darkest hour, the multiverse provides the only two people in existence who possess the exact emotional vocabulary to understand his grief.
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield step through the portals.
The secrecy surrounding their involvement was just legendary. Andrew Garfield gave a masterclass in deception, lying to the global press for a year.
He even lied to Emma Stone, his co-star and former partner from the Amazing Spider-Man films.
Yes. She kept texting him, asking if he was in the movie, and he aggressively played dumb.
When she finally saw the film at the premiere, she immediately texted him calling him a jerk.
Which is so funny. But the studio went to extreme lengths to protect the reveal, too.
Yeah, in the original script drafts, Tobey and Andrew were supposed to dramatically step out of magical portals on a generic New York City rooftop.
But director John Watts was browsing Reddit and saw fan art depicting that exact scenario.
He realized that modern audiences are so genre-savvy that standard superhero tropes no longer surprise them.
So he rewrote the scene, placing the monumental meeting of three cinematic icons in the cramped dining room of Ned's Filipino grandmother's house.
As Watts explained, no one was drawing fan art of that. It totally grounded the multiverse in mundane reality.
And before they shot those scenes, John Watts actually held what he called a Spider-Man therapy session.
A therapy session.
Yeah, he gathered Tom, Tobey, Andrew, Zendaya, and Jacob on folding chairs in a circle. No cameras, no crew. They just talked about what the character meant to each of them, dissecting the trauma and the legacy of the role.
That is so cool. They bonded over their shared, highly specific, lived experience.
And that emotional intimacy bled directly into the physical production. You see it in the downtime moments, like the three of them sharing the sensory nightmare of wearing the suits.
Oh man, the suits.
Yeah.
Tobey and Tom revealed they had to use talcum powder to slip into the skin-tight spandex.
Andrew was apparently horrified by that.
And Tom shared his own miserable hack-pudding plastic grocery bags on his feet so his heels would slide into the built-in boots.
Resulting in his feet sweating profusely all day, they
Yeah.
bonded over the sheer discomfort of being a hero.
That brotherhood really culminates in the final battle on the scaffolding of the Statue of Liberty. And the physical environment of that set was brutal.
Tom Holland noted that executing a perfect superhero landing on the uneven, sloped, copper surface of the statue's crown was nearly impossible.
Especially because looking through the mesh lenses of the mask removes, like, all peripheral vision.
But the technical difficulty pays off in the emotional execution of the fight. Because they aren't trying to destroy the villains, they are administering cures.
The sequence serves as a massive redemption arc for the legacy Spider-Man.
It really does. When MJ is knocked off the scaffolding and begins plummeting, Tom's Peter dives after her, but the Goblin intercepts him.
And in that terrifying split second, Andrew Garfield's Peter leaps.
The visual language of that moment is staggering. He doesn't just fall, he propels himself downward, he catches her, and they land safely.
But watch Garfield's face in that moment. The second he realizes she is safe, his face just crumbles into a mask of pure agony and relief.
He asks if she's okay, and you realize he isn't just saving Tom's girlfriend.
He's reaching through time and saving Gwen Stacy.
Yes. He is finally absolving himself of the failure that defined his entire adult life. It is catharsis in its purest form.
And Tobey Maguire's redemption is equally profound, though entirely silent. During the climax, Tom's Peter loses control. He savagely beats the Green Goblin, picks up the villain's bladed glider, and raises it above his head, fully intending to drive it through Norman's chest.
Tom's face is twisted in hatred.
He is about to cross the line. He is about to become a murderer.
And Tobey stops him. He doesn't yell, he doesn't give a speech. He simply steps between Tom and the Goblin, physically catching the descending blade with his bare hands.
Earlier in the film, Tobey tells Tom that he has been trying to do better. Tobey's Peter has lived with the corrosive poison of revenge.
He knows that if Tom strikes that blow, the Goblin wins, because Peter's humanity will be destroyed. By catching the blade, Tobey saves the Goblin's life, but he really saves Tom's soul.
Even when the Goblin stabs Tobey in the back a moment later, Tobey doesn't retaliate. He absorbs the pain to give Tom the clarity needed to administer the cure instead of the killing blow.
But the victory's temporary. The multiversal rifts in the sky are tearing wide open. Infinite numbers of villains are bleeding through.
To stop reality from collapsing, Peter realizes the only solution is amputation. He tells Doctor Strange to cast a new spell. He doesn't just want the world to forget Spider-Man's identity.
He tells Strange to make everyone, including MJ, Ned, and Happy, forget that Peter Parker ever existed.
It is the ultimate consequence. He willfully chooses absolute isolation to save the universe. All records, all memories of him are wiped clean.
The boy who started his journey desperate for the approval of Tony Stark and the Avengers realizes that true heroism requires relinquishing all of it.
The epilogue is a masterclass in heartbreak. A few weeks later, Peter walks into the donut shop where MJ works, holding a rehearsed speech on a piece of paper, intending to explain everything and win her back.
But as they talk, he sees a bandage on her forehead, a lingering wound from the battle at the Statue of Liberty.
In that moment, he realizes that his presence only brings her pain. So he swallows his grief, orders a coffee, and walks away.
But there's one detail in that scene that absolutely wrecks me.
What?
When MJ is talking to him, treating him like a total stranger, she is wearing a necklace. It's the broken glass black dahlia necklace Peter gave her in Europe during Far From Home.
Oh, wow. So her mind has been wiped of his existence, but she unknowingly held on to the physical anchor of their love.
Memory is fragile, but emotional resonance endures. It's a beautifully tragic note to end on, and it brings the structural genius of the trilogy into focus. When you look at Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home as a single continuous narrative, you realize it is a 15-hour origin story.
In the first chapter, he is a kid playing dress-up in Tony Stark's billion-dollar tech, desperate for a surrogate father.
In the second chapter, he is crushed by the legacy of that father, constantly relying on a safety net of adults to bail him out.
But by the final frame of the third chapter, the safety net is gone. He is living in a freezing, dingy apartment. He is studying for his GED. He is listening to police scanners.
He steps out of his window into the snowy New York night, wearing a suit he sewed himself. The shiny metallic armor is gone. The AI voice in his ear is gone. He is wearing the classic bright red and blue fabric.
He has finally, at immense personal cost, internalized May's lesson. The burden is entirely his.
It is a phenomenal coming-of-age arc that clearly impacted the cast just as deeply. Zendaya, Jacob Batalon, and Tom Holland approached the end of the production as a genuine farewell to their youth.
They spent their final days on set crying, acknowledging that even if they return to these roles, the innocence of their dynamic is gone forever.
They grew up alongside the characters, and the result is one of the most cohesive, emotionally devastating, and ultimately triumphant character studies in modern blockbuster cinema.
Before we wrap up this deep dive into the Spider-Man trilogy, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We started this conversation by talking about masks, how Peter Parker spent 3 movies trying to figure out how to balance the face he shows the world with the mask he wears to save it.
But at the end of his journey, the spell erases the face entirely. Peter Parker is gone. Only the mask remains in the memories of the world.
So ask yourself, what does it truly mean for a hero when the only way to save the people he loves is to ensure they never even know he existed? And that wraps our journey through Tom Holland's Spider-Man trilogy. From the kid who just wanted to prove he belonged, to the hero who finally understood what it means to stand on his own. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Roll Credits and share it with your fellow movie fans. And let us know what film or franchise we should cover next, old or new. We'll be back soon with more trivia, more movie magic, and remember, with great power comes great responsibility.